Yeah, slippery
Let's remind
slope.
everybody, what was that quote?
Who you are today is not a life sentence.
Yeah, I think I heard that. I think you said that, I don't know, 2 episodes ago. But even when I heard that, I was just like, damn, that's extremely freaking powerful.
Well, bam.
Yeah.
Not sure if some of the viewers can see it. I think, I guess because of the way that my career has gone, it has afforded me to just learn a lot more about myself. And I wish I knew this years ago. People are always like, what would you say to your former self or something and I wouldn't really say anything. I wouldn't want anything to change. I love the way that everything went. However, I do wish at a younger age that I understood that the most important knowledge to obtain is knowledge that will lead to being able to change your behavior. Not like you have bad behavior, not like you're acting up in school or not like you're getting in trouble with the law or anything like that. But just, we all have habits that aren't great. We all have habits that aren't going to propel us forward. It's not like having like a tough mindset. It's not about being like strong-willed and those things. Those things are important. But in my opinion, it has a lot to do more with the reinterpretation of everything. Like everything is an interpretation. Just about everything. I mean, if we had a physicist on here, he would say that mathematics aren't up for interpretation or something like that. But even then, those are just theories, and what we know about those theories can change in a second. They can change in a heartbeat. So let me give you like an analogy, right? So, when I went to school, you guys all know the story. I had a bunch of different special classes, and let me explain a little bit about like a learning disability. So no one ever really told me what I had, or like they never categorized it as a certain thing. I just was struggling in school, and then they gave me a bunch of tests, and based off of those tests, they were like, oh, you have a learning disability. Now you're going to be in these classes. And so just to show you how quickly things could change, so they tell me I have a learning disability. Now I'm in these classes. I'm not in classes with a lot of my friends anymore. I'm in these like special classes. And the kids that are in class with me have like physical and mental they have very obvious physical and mental I guess disabilities, you would say. I don't even know what the right word would be to describe it. But anyway, like I appear to be a lot different than them. And anyway, so I'm in this class with these kinds of kids that are really having trouble learning. I mean, they like they don't even know which way to face in the classroom and stuff like that. Like I'm not by no means am I making fun of any of these people. These are people that all became my friends and stuff like that. And these are people that I got in like fights for because they got picked on and things like that. But like they just, they're in wheelchairs and things of that nature. And so I kind of placed myself to that level of what was going on in that classroom. And I kind of started to think that of myself. I was like, oh, I can't learn. I can't progress in some of these other things, even though when it came to like football or when it came to certain things, like I knew the stats of every player and I knew all these other things, but only like by my parents would it be pointed out like, hey, no, you're actually smart. Like you shouldn't think of yourself that way. But like no kid really listens to their parents, I mean, I'm lucky that I had supportive parents. But just to, give you guys like an example. Now imagine that same scenario, right? I get labeled as learning disabled, right? I get put in these special classes. I go home to my parents and I say, hey, like, they put me in these special classes. I don't think it's a great idea. I disagree with them. And I think that like maybe I should get like a second opinion. Like we should look into this further. Or perhaps maybe we should try a different school, because maybe just like regular public school, maybe it's not great for me. Maybe I should look into something that maybe will allow you to be more creative, because I was the kind of kid that they said, what color is the sky? And I was like, sometimes it's white, sometimes it's gray. They wanted me to say blue. What color is the grass? It's like, well, it depends. Sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's green. Like it depends on how much nourishment it gets, So I was never giving them the answers that they were looking for. But just imagine if somebody else would have told me at 11, 12, you actually don't have a learning disability. They actually, the diagnosis that they had was wrong. And imagine if they could show a scan of my brain and show me, right? So everything that I ever knew about myself would have all disappeared. And that's just based off an interpretation of a doctor or somebody giving you a diagnosis of what you may or may not have. You know, another example could be somebody works out for a few months and they don't know anything about working out, and their arms get real big and swollen. And someone says, "Oh my God, your arms, you have cancer in there. Like both your arms, you have cancer in both your arms." And you're like, "No, I don't think so, man. I feel good." Like, "No, you have lumps, and lumps mean cancer. That's what lumps are. You have cancerous tumors in your arms." And you look it up or you get a diagnosis and it's like, "No, man, you grew some biceps." So everything is open to interpretation, and it really messes with your mind when you start to consider all the things that you can interpret in whatever which way you want. You can interpret something somebody says to you as being offensive. You can say, "Oh, I can't believe they just fucking said that to me. That's unbelievable. Why would they say that? Oh my God." Or you see a post from somebody and you can have it trigger you. You can have it, quote unquote, make you mad. Mm. But something that's important to know is that no one can make you do anything. No one can make you feel any sort of way. I mean, it's an interpretation. You can head it off at the pass. I'm not talking about stuffing down your feelings, because that's not a great solution to anything either. Although sometimes it's good just to ignore certain things. But what I'm talking about is identifying what happened, identifying what someone said, identifying what you saw. Why does that make me feel that way is the next question. And then you can start to maybe you can start to put some facts around what was said. Well, I kind of always get upset when someone says that to me. And so it makes sense. I don't know why they said it, but if it's someone that you know, they're saying it intentionally to hurt you, or they're saying it to get your attention about something. If it's somebody that you don't know, they don't know you. You know, they're not able to really give you a true assessment of what's going on in the first place. So, but it's hard. It's very difficult. I'm not saying any of this is easy. It's very difficult to not react to some of the things that you hear or some of the things that you're told about yourself. I think all three of us are fairly calm people. I think we maybe have some differences in our personalities, but I think for the most part we're all pretty even keel, especially now. You know, especially like where we all are now. But you know, I think a lot of people, you know, their positives and their negatives, they swing really aggressively on a pendulum. You know, like and this is like one of the reasons why I don't like look at our numbers. You know, I don't really want that. I'm sure I could look at them now and not have any problems with them, but I don't want that like taking me anywhere. I don't want that changing my thoughts. I don't want anything skewed. I don't want anything to mess with my like creative side either. You know, I don't want to be like, "Oh, that makes us money, so let's do more of that." You know, or that didn't work because it didn't make us money. It's like, that's actually not really true. Like, was it fun? Was it exciting? Was it? Mm-hmm. Did we have a good time doing it? Like, did it up the morale of the team? Like, you know, there's so many other factors that aren't to do with just the numbers of just the money. But I think, you know, somebody that owns a business, they may allow their pendulum of energy to swing into the positive when things are going really well, right? But then, you know, what does that set you up for? You know, your motion and everything went this way, and now like a wrecking ball, it's going to come right back the other way, and you're negative, you're positive, you're negative, you're positive. And if you can figure out a way to have that emotion shift a lot less, then you're able to think about things with being rational. You're able to be rational, and that's what separates us from animals. You know, we're not birds, so we don't need to fly south when it gets cold. You know, we're humans, and we can decide what we want to do. Trying to figure out what to do, when to do it, how to do it is very hard if your feelings are in the way. And so it's not like you want to, remember I said earlier, like you don't want to stuff down your feelings, and you never want to try to kill your feelings. That would make you a sociopath. But it is nice to not have them interfere with everything that you do. And so when somebody says something, I don't know if you guys get this, but like if there's a problem in the family, somebody says something about a family member, and no one's trying to be negative or anything, but it's just a circumstance, something happened in the family, and you kind of feel weepy. Like immediately you almost feel like you're gonna cry. Like you can't even really barely talk when you think about the situation that they're going through, or you think about how tough it must be or whatever it is. But if you're able to apply rational thought to it, and if you're able to apply some facts to it, and you're able to say, okay, well, I'm feeling that way because that person's very close to me. Okay, that makes sense. Like because you have a high value assignment to the people that are close to you, the people that you love, the people that you care about, they're going to be of highest priority to you. So obviously your feelings are going to play into a lot of the things that they may be going through or they may be doing in their life. But if you can start to apply some facts to it and say, okay, they lost their job. Well, a lot of people have lost their job, and the world is changing. Some things are different at the moment. What happens when people lose their job at the moment? Okay, they can get a stimulus package. Like you start to kind of think about what are some of the things that can arise from this that will soften the blow, or how do we solve the problem of this person losing their job? Maybe you can start to think of things they could do. Maybe you can reference them to a podcast that you heard where people talked about things that people could do in this time to make money. So then you can apply rational thought to it rather than crying about it, because crying about it, although it might feel good to cry it out here and there, it's not very productive. It's not really gonna. It's not gonna help. It doesn't change the news. Crying or being mad. Throwing something across the room, saying "fuck," like that doesn't. It fixes nothing.